The Great Canadian Talk Show.
There's only a couple of watts, but I brought the truth to everyone within 3 blocks of the west side of campus.
No way! Yes way!
And now, let's get right down to business with Marty Gold.
Last week's edition of the podcast has moved up even all day Sunday as we get ready to record, and is now the second most podcast of all time.
Oh, nice. That's good.
Behind only Glenn Murray Should Come Clean about Caledon.
Glenn Murray Clean.
We'll be overtaking that episode to become our most listened to podcast. And as well, the YouTube video has had really good numbers. And so I know there's a substantial audience. Some of you are new to what I do, what we do, the nature of citizen journalism, and I welcome you. We're going to have more information about the controversy in St. Boniface, startling information that I put together over the course of the early part of last week. And not only do we welcome you, but we're encouraging you to share the podcast, share the episode descriptions, an easy way to read what's going on with everybody, your friends, your neighbors, people in other neighborhoods, because the kinds of chess games, the way the pieces move around the board politically, this is what goes on in any Winnipeg neighborhood. And when you hear what's going on in St. Boniface, I know that anybody with half a brain is going to say, oh, geez, I don't want that here. The video version of the podcast, just to explain, in particular, we've honed in on the civics part, this the moving on Marion plan, bike lanes that pop out of nowhere and where nobody gets told about it. But this is very locally focused, and your financial support, and it has ranged in all sorts of numbers in the past, from $1,000 down to $10. It all goes towards a worthy cause, which is keeping Winnipeg informed of, and countering the narrative that is just repeated almost without question in every instance by the mainstream media. You've seen absolutely zero media coverage. All that Trudeau going to all those newsrooms. CTV, CBC, Global Free Press, all those newsrooms, they all get federal subsidies one way or the other. Not one word about the potential for grave damage to the St. Boniface neighborhood, to Norwood, because of this plan. That's why we're here. Your support makes it happen, and your support will make more of it happen as we roll on towards the provincial election. Following our podcast at the end of March, St. B bike lane plan double crosses bank and bike lobby, where even the bike lobby complained that the map that was put out at the open house was misleading compared to the actual plans the city has, plans that they have not divulged to plenty of people who should be knowing, which I'll explain in a moment. Following that episode, I continued my investigation. I did something that modern day reporters are loath to do, work. And thusly, I put on my walking shoes and I proceeded down Tache. And I canvassed once again a little bit more the neighborhood between the stretch of Marion, rather, in the Norwood neighborhood. There's a few residences there. I haven't touched on that part yet, and won't really in this episode. Took a walk down, and that was after a conversation I had with somebody from an organization in the neighborhood. I was armed with a little more insight into what has been going on, and then I took that information down to some of the business I had already seen and met with, and a few others that were added to the fun and games, I guess is the way to put it. And when you take a walk through that neighborhood, you're seeing a really great mix of businesses. And this is just in the 1 block stretch from Tache, the road that leads you to the hospital or from the hospital, right, over to St. Mary's Road.
Yeah.
Or to between there and Kenny Street. And you'll see a sign shop, right?
Yeah.
There's a hair salon. I have not been able to speak with them yet, but my timing's been very bad to get them before they're gone for the day. But there are residences upstairs. There's Spice World is there. There's artists, what I'll call artist studios. It's art therapy. There, I was able to speak with someone there. I wasn't able to speak. There's a few I think they're dental offices, medical offices, a little further down on the south side of Marion towards Traverse. Wasn't able to get in with them. You can see if you're watching the video, you'll see just the nature of the streetscape and the kinds of enterprises and businesses, and even some of those businesses, they're not just storefronts. There'll be small office buildings. One has a tattoo studio, for instance, downstairs, conspicuous ink, which I didn't know was there because I don't have any tattoos on my thing, so I wouldn't pay attention. But people who are into that they can get that service right in their own neighborhood if they live somewhere around the St. Boniface Hospital. Very convenient. There's a dance studio, I think, that was closed because of the holidays. I haven't been able to speak with them. It's just a sample of the businesses, but I was able to speak with many, many others, financial services company, florist, etc. Antique shop. Many of them listened to last week's podcast. I sent it to them, not just the podcast, but again, this the video illustration, the YouTube video. They were very concerned, to say the least. And so now I have a bit of a tally sheet. It's 9 businesses had no idea they were losing their parking. It's kind of 9.5, and one of them, I haven't talked to the owners yet, but the person who mans the front desk that is there every day looking out a window on a Marion, so clearly a well-informed individual, she had not heard about it, had no idea there was going to be a bike lane, no idea there was a loss of parking. One of these individuals at these businesses, one knew about the bike lane proposed for Marion. The rest of them all go, well, you mean Eugenie, where there's already an established greenway bike path. One business, this was from last week. I didn't find anybody else this week. So 9 of them, I guess 9.5 again, had no idea about 9 of them, I guess, had no idea about a plan for an open house. None knew about the loss of parking. A number of them asked, well, what about us, basically? Only one had heard of the Kenny Street Greenway. They asked, well, what about Eugenie in terms of where the bicycles should go instead of Marion? Only one had heard about the Kenny Street Greenway. Why is that important? Because Bike Winnipeg claimed the city put misleading information. I'll correct this in a second. They claimed that the city open house had put incorrect information, and that the proposal for bike lanes through the neighborhood is supposed to go on Kenny Street and wasn't on the map. So I want to clarify something. I should have done this off the top. I apologize. I've been saying city staff, and I am now going to correct that. I did not see any clear signage at the open house, and I wasn't looking for it, to be honest. But I didn't take note that, in fact, these weren't city staff, City of Winnipeg staffers. There may have been some there, I guess. But these were actually representatives of not one, but 2 consulting companies. So now we're back to our old wheelhouse. Consultants and public consultation has once again reared its ugly head in relation to bike lanes and neighborhoods with small businesses, the lifeblood of our community. Once again, it's come up. These were 2 consulting companies involved, one doing the engineering, and I'll explain that later, and then the other one doing the public consultation. Only one of these businesses had heard of the Kenny Street Greenway. None of them had heard about the proposal to put a bike lane on Traverse, take away the parking between Traverse and Goulet, and take that parking away from, among other businesses, Scotiabank and the Dog Loft. There's another canine care facility in that stretch of Marion that I'm talking about, which I didn't really realize it was there, but they're there too. And those dog care places, they get a lot of attention, not like from the other businesses, because they see people running in and out with their dogs. The dog got a wash, and they see it. And this is a lot of it's like 10, 15-minute parking turnover. And some of these people will, before they get the dogs pretty much, I guess, they will go to some of these other stores, whether it's to pick up flowers, pick up spices, pick up an antique, whatever. 4 of the businesses I spoke with complained of city roadways, in other words, potholes, poor condition, and the prioritizing of the bike lobby. All of them spoke of how bad this could be moving on Marion for their neighbors, for the neighboring businesses. None of them thought it was right for the other businesses directly affected by loss of parking. By that, I mean, we started looking for, using the video, we started looking where these bump outs were so people could see, they're going to take away parking on the side of Safeway and in front of Dollarama, a little further down the block than this stretch. We started trying to analyze exactly where the parking is going to be lost. But it's being lost around the neighborhood, even if it's a block up. People, you don't get parking at one block, you go up to the next block, find a spot, walk back, right? That's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
4 of the businesses spoke about the shortage of parking, and they spoke about special circumstances that increase parking demand, such as the dog places and funerals at the Legion. The Legion now no longer has a parking lot because they put a mixed income, I guess would be the term, high rise there. When there's a funeral connected to the Legion, you don't want those people to have to walk very far. Well, normal humans wouldn't want them to walk very far.
No.
But what's being proposed isn't exactly normal. Now, I repeat, none of them had heard of the Traverse Street bike lanes that are supposed to go on Kenny, according to the city's other plan, as of the end of 2021. And among the people who had not heard of the Traverse Street bike lanes, but who, like myself, learned about it at the open house, is the new executive director of the Norwood Grove Biz, which you would identify as the Biz for St. Boniface, not Provencher, not the other main drag to the north that connects basically to the Forks, okay? But this would be, the main route in and out, really, of St. Boniface. The executive director of the Biz, she's owned a business on Marion near Tache for 12 years. She had no idea of this proposal for the bike lanes on Traverse till she saw it at the open house. And that means, honest to God, Kenny.
Wow.
And that means that when these consultants said to my face, when I asked, who's supporting this? Who wants this? Oh, they said, the Biz. That was a lie.
And it sounded like a lie that you can't, substantiate. You can clearly go to the Biz and find out whether they're for it or not. Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Yes. Say what? That's incredible. How did we get here? How did we get to this spot? It's the kind of thing, Kenny, we talked about on Kick FM in 2010, leading into the civic election. Assiniboine, Barrie, McDermott, Nassau, the flood of emails, the name calling that went on about us on the floor of City Council from, among other people, bike lane advocate, councillor at the time, Jenny Gerbasi, who I think referred to us as right-wing radio or some nonsense.
If this isn't incompetence, it's almost sinister. I hope this is just plain incompetence, Marty.
Well, I hang on to that thought. Now, at first, I checked with these businesses and I said, did you get any notice from the Biz? And they admitted it. I called the Biz executive director. I don't want to go too deep into it because she's new. The Biz is in a state of disarray. She admits that. And that means what's going on here is dollars to donuts. Somebody's going to say, oh, well, the Biz should have this and that. The Biz is in disarray. New executive director. I heard a number of not very complimentary things about the previous executive director that sounded very similar to things I heard about a previous executive director over in the Corden Osborne area from a few years ago. So there's something fishy about this whole Biz system. I've heard that before. And there's something like, whose side are they on? So maybe the previous executive director told these consultants, oh, yeah, everybody will love it. And then she forgot to tell the businesses that pay the fees that pay their wage. I don't know.
Aye. That's scary.
So they're trying to rebuild their email list. And I was immediately acknowledged when I said, who's responsible to have informed the businesses about the open house? You've raised a good point, I was told. I said, ooh, wow. Now, who knows the Biz is in disarray? Who knows there's a new executive director? Well, I can guarantee you damn near everybody on the consulting side dealing with this would know or should have known. But I'll tell you who knows, the people that are on the board of the Norwood Grove Biz. And you know who's on that board? Councillor Matt Allard.
Oh.
He knows that they're in disarray. Matt Allard evidently didn't on his own accord with the budget he is granted by virtue of his office as the city councillor for St. Boniface. He evidently made no attempt to do any outreach I want you folks to understand, I've only gone to the one block. I haven't gone up to the next block between Kenny and Traverse. I haven't gone from Traverse to, I guess is it Eugenie next? Technically, there's a light there, and then a Desmuron. And I haven't figured out how to approach the multitude of different businesses, property owners, etc., from the bridge, from St. Mary's Road to Tache. I've just done one block. Basically, it seems like 10 businesses. Only one knew about the open house. One knew about the bike lanes. Nobody knew about the bike lanes on Traverse. It's going to take 24 parking spots in that one location, plus a few more in that area of Marion that we can tell automatically. Okay. Only one had heard of the Kenny Street Greenway where bike lanes are supposed to go. And the biz director herself had no idea about this goofy, strange, peculiar, oddball idea for Traverse. She didn't know till she went to the open house. And you'll recall that the vice president of the Bank of Nova Scotia, I did not hear back from this week, but I was out of town part of the time, that he told me that they had no idea.
Was she invited to go to the open house or just heard about it?
Interesting you say that. She said that, she got a late, the way it was described, she got a late email. That's how it was described. So there was a board meeting this past week. This was already on the agenda. She said she would call me on Monday. We were recording on Sunday. She said she would call me on Monday and wants to sit down and talk with me. And she'll tell me what they do and don't know, what their perspectives are. She said herself, I told her, and this is one of the big flaws, the red flag went up immediately at that open house when I asked how many parking spots are being lost, and nobody could say. And I asked her, and she doesn't know. So again, when these consultants on behalf of the city of Winnipeg say the biz is in favor of moving on Marion, that is a lie. And Matt Allard is on the biz board, and he should know that. It cannot by any stretch be said that there is support when the executive director doesn't want to see any parking lots and doesn't know how much is being proposed and got a last-minute invitation to the open house and had no idea about the bike lanes on top. I'm losing my breath here. There's so much wrong, and we barely touched on this. Now, what about the community at large? The neighborhood. Well, we heard a few things from people that are from what became the South St. Boniface catchment area. And this is really around the Seine River, Happy Land Park. It goes back to our battle about Happy Land Park with City Circus on Shaw TV in 2015-16. It extended in 2016, again, because of one-sided, biased, crooked consultation. I remind everybody. Here's some of the comments from people that are going to be facing other changes, and this is going to change traffic flow in and out of their neighborhood, right? Going from the Norwood Bridge and going down to La Jamodier. Nobody around Marion Street, I was told, supports this Moving on Marion project. We believe it's a way to ease the freeway onto us, the Marion Freeway, or bus rapid transit. There's no need for a bicycle lane on Marion. We have a bicycle path on Eugenie from St. Mary's Road to Youville, and then from Youville to Fermor, and you can branch off in two ways on a nice safe path. Clearly something else is going on. And keep that in mind, folks, because I heard a few other things when I was talking with businesses that I'm going to be working on, things that are being hidden from the general public that are part of the bigger, grander, longer range plan. And so they're trying to incrementally get to where their destination is. All these city bureaucrats and these active transportation activists and these other special interest groups. Will you notice the pattern? For over a dozen years, the city of Winnipeg consistently seemed to fail to speak with the businesses and residents that are affected. Now, I sent the video to some of these people in the Seine River neighborhood. From this neighborhood, hardly anybody showed up to the open house because they held the meeting at Norwood. The idea being that this required a meeting in other neighborhoods affected by this. And I was also told this week they really should have talked with people off in North St. Boniface off Provencher as well, because it's going to affect traffic flow on Marion. Where might some of it go? Provencher. Now, there was a mention made about one of the Zoom meetings, and it said a consultant, a person from an employee of blah, 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 Dillon Consultants, and they handled the meeting a certain way, which I'll get. We're going to have more about this next week. So I had to make a phone call. Is there a so-and-so? And I phoned Dylan Consulting. Is there a so-and-so by somebody by the name, whatever, that works for you? Oh, no. And they put me through to someone else. I said, well, no, that's actually that person was running the open house. And the open house wasn't done by Dylan. They do the drawings and the engineering. The open house was done by something called HTFC, not HFC. Because when I first heard, I go, what? Not household finance, no. HTFC, Hilderman Thomas Frank Cram. They handled the public consultation. And one individual indicated they were at a meeting for people in Lashimodi who are getting expropriated as part of this bigger plan that goes down towards, I think, the Dougal side to create a more turning lane. They're taking out a couple of houses. And there's businesses on Marion that I guess because of the bike path, their frontage is going to be affected. There's a Access Storage, I think, is there. I think it was Access Storage. And ABC Fire, there's another business, okay? And then the perspective from that meeting, I don't want to go further into that. Once again, they divided everyone up so you would not jump down their throats at the same time. The same tactic they used with the Marion Freeway that was set to destroy Happy Land Park and set to destroy that neighborhood. The question was brought up. What I don't understand is where were all the business owners? I'm really curious if you could find out if the doggy daycare got a letter or the bank.
Yeah. Those are good questions.
Now we go to the online comments from these various Facebook groups, in particular the St. Boniface St. Patel group, but there's a few places where we deposited the videos, in particular the whole podcast as well. And there's been two, just to be clear, we've had two installments on this, the fact-free open house, which we now see how fact-free it was. That headline was 100% correct, and every city councillor should be deeply concerned, starting with Mayor Gillingham. We generally have, not mentioned him too often on this program since his ascension to the big chair. From Scott Gillingham on down, every councillor should be concerned that it turns out that it was no exaggeration and that open house conducted by HTFC was fact-free. And Kenny, you know what? We'll talk more about them next week. The consult next week. I'll just focus for now on feedback from our viewers, and listeners. I live in Norwood. I'm an avid daily cyclist. I don't think Norwood needs any bike lanes. I usually use the Marion head south of Marion and Tache to head downtown. It's pretty easy to take a road like Dubuque to head west. I think one of the best places we put a bike lane is expanding the Wolseley route all the way to Almonds Creek and make a connection from downtown to the Marion Street Bridge. That's a bigger picture thing. Sounds like an idea, a worthwhile idea, but nothing I can really assess at this time. But you see, this person has, some knowledge of cycling.
Yeah.
Another comment. Matt Allard has his own agenda, not a fan. A shop owner in the Happy Land Park region, who we are acquainted with from that battle against the freeway a few years ago, responded, Matt Allard did not show up in all three meetings that were prior to last week. All three he was missing from. I would like to know where that weasel was at. Now, I don't know.
Spring break.
No, this before spring break.
Oh, okay.
He was warming up for spring break. I don't know which three meetings they are unless they're talking about these consultations, because this business owner would have been invited, I'm pretty sure, to one of these, if you follow my drift.
Yeah.
Number of comments, fix our roads, not bike paths.
Yeah, fix our roads. Just fix the damn roads.
For those of us who have no choice but to drive to work, we pay taxes well and should have proper roads help reduce the maintenance of our vehicles. I should be billing the city, said one person, with my constant repairs for ball joint, tie rods, suspension, and lower control arms. 1,000% a horrible idea. Stop with these bike lanes. Hope not, said one person. Not enough space as it is. Now, there was somebody who chimed in with a comment. This was on Facebook. Why do we care what the VP of a bank wants? Scotiabank could reinvest its billions in profits it makes and build itself a city without any bike lanes.
Oh,
they literally make $24 billion a year. In other words, some lunatic who's crazy enough to attach their name to this Facebook comment. Why do we care what the VP of a bank wants?
Because they're a part of the communities. Like every bank is a part of every community it's in. It's where people put their money. It's where businesses get their first loans to start small businesses. Like it employs
local people. And this, again, is this divide and conquer mentality of these consulting companies. So that the individuals and the businesses themselves through the whole region, they don't want everybody to start comparing notes and develop a groundswell of opposition to these plans. One comment cracked me up because I haven't seen this term in so long. This city is so off plumb, it is scary. Off plumb. When's the last time you heard that one?
Probably never. I don't think I've ever heard. I understand what it means, but I don't think I've heard it before. Off plumb.
Off plumb. That's that. You'll have to look it up. It's when you're measuring how level something is or isn't.
Oh, okay.
And that straight up and down would be basically plumb, and variations from it would be off plumb.
Okay. All right. So it's not on the level.
No, yes, certainly not on the not on the level. Our elected officials trying to slide one by businesses and others to get a cycling utopia. Now, another comment that was very insightful. It's been Matt Allard's pet project. I'm sure I'll enjoy it being covered in snow and ice while I'm idling. How good for the environment, waiting for a train at rush hour. He says he wanted Marion to be a walking area when they reduced the speed limit. So I guess that's what happens, she wrote, when you get someone more dazzled by their legacy than public service. So can you make a note? Next week, we'll talk about the biz, what I hear from them. We'll talk about the consultant involved. And we'll talk about Councillor Matt Allard as well.
Yeah, it'll be good to find out when she gets back to you on Monday. Yeah, that's going to be good.
Comment of the week. This is ridiculous. Businesses are suffering so they can have these unused bike paths. My husband, unfortunately, needed to go to cancer care by HSC. No direct parking, bike lanes galore, not a single bike in sight, but cancer patients hobbling to their unfortunate destination exactly as we predicted.
Yeah, that's really a sad state of affairs.
Because there's nothing more selfish than the bike lobby and their eco-hysteria. Nothing worse. Now, meanwhile, Matt Allard completely ignoring that businesses that fund the biz that he's on, that pay the taxes, that pay his wages, that he's supposed to represent. Not only is he ignoring these businesses have been left in the dark, certainly in the open house process. God knows what went on before they got to the open house. He's been busy yammering on at city council about, among other things, we should spend some money to practice plowing snow down to the pavement and scraping sidewalks. There's a very low percentage of sidewalks that are in good enough shape to do that. Otherwise, you're wrecking blades, you're wrecking equipment. Even the public works chair, who took over from Allard when he was not found a favorable holdover, candidate to be held over by Mayor Gillingham, Janice Lukes. The city's been plowing to the pavement for years in downtown and is acutely aware of the process and cost, Matt Allard. You know this, she tweeted at him. Winnipeg plows 5,000 kilometers of AT network after every snow event. The annual report on snow clearing innovation comes in June. So here he is grandstanding, and even Lukes and Jeff Brawadi too. They both smacked him for grandstanding over something that where the city's already has experience. They already have. You don't need a whole new study. He cares more about pretending that there's viability in plowing sidewalks after snow events, after snowfall, than caring about the businesses in his own neighborhood. We got one private message that I'll impart. I applaud your incredible fact-based podcast on bike lanes. Parking in St. Boniface is already at a premium. Go get a Marty. And that we shall do. Much more about this whole moving on Marion, bike lanes, yes or no, all of it. I'm going to do more research this week. Short week because of Good Friday and a few other factors. I'm going to try to get more legwork in. Share the existing episodes, the existing videos with people, please.
Hey, Marty.
Yes, Kenny.
Is Go Get 'em Marty the name of your autobiography?
I have to tell you, very unlikely, because I really don't remember ever being told this before.
Go Get 'em Marty?
I don't remember it. I kind of like it, though.
It is. It's a
kind of
catchy
snappy,
term.
eh?
Yeah.
I will be going to get them. I'm going to be standing up for the neighborhood, standing up for the businesses, standing up for the community. Next week, there'll be more focus on the biz and how they've been evidently been taken advantage of, the consulting company, what we know about their history when it comes to public consultation, and a little bit more about Councillor Matt Allard and this whole imbalance between active transportation in and of itself, safe cycling, it's an idea, but there has to be some balance to this, and continually ramming through projects where they don't fit and then trying to justify them after the fact with bogus, cooked, rigged user numbers. And in fact, not even any speculation, that open house, how many people would use it. That tells you right there that this stinks to high heaven. But again, we're dealing with people that have never run a bricks and mortar business in their lives. So this is a weird kind of class warfare as well as everything else. I heard plenty from the businesses involved, from people who are not too happy about this and not too happy about the role of their city councillor. We'll have more about that next week. Head off to a break when we come back. Catch up on provincial election polling and some of our own clever insights and opinions. You're listening to the Great Canadian Talk Show podcast. The Great Canadian Talk Show podcast is brought to you by Midpoint Auto, vehicle sales at wholesale pricing. 1.99% financing on new cars, 6.99% financing on great used vehicles. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs, that's not all. Off-road vehicles, campers, snowmobiles, dirt bikes, even boats. If you're in the market for something with an engine, then that's the place you want to go. MidpointAutomotive.ca. The phone number, 833-997-9930. Again, that's 833-997-9930. Midpoint Auto, bad credit approved, good credit rewarded. If you're a listener of the Great Canadian Talk Show podcast, let them know by giving them the promo code, TALK, the word talk. That's the promo code, and you're sure to get a great deal from Midpoint Automotive.
Do you have a comment, story tip, or want to advertise or support the Great Canadian Talk Show podcast? Email tgcts1@gmail.com, join the Facebook group, or follow us on Twitter @TGCTS. You have the power.